So, Greg, I've known you forever, but it's the first time we're actually doing an interview together. And I'll tell you why I've selected you. Because you have this diverse experience, both as studying companies and investing in companies. So would you just state a few words for our audience so that they know who you are?
Sure. So I'm Greg Franklin. I've been here in Silicon Valley for 40 years. I have an operating background, which essentially gave me the springboard into the investment world, and I'm able to use that operating experience to help companies in their formative stages, and use that to help them access capital from the right sources, good capital, value-add capital, which is very important. And so my operating background actually was originally with a Fortune 500 company, and then
it's quite a switch.
And then, but then also two Sutter Hill portfolio companies.
Yeah,
before.
And Sutter Hill, again, to our audience, is one of the first VC funds.
One of the premier
venture capital
funds in Silicon Valley, long-standing, long history, I think going back to the early 60s.
Exactly. So back then, the investment style was a bit different than what it is now, but some things do not change. So if you were to condense it to say 3 points, what any company should know when they work with an investor. First of all, when you're fundraising, what is the best way to attract attention?
Well, I think it's probably well known, but the things that attract capital are always very large markets. And then the management team and the ability to generate protectable IP, I think, and have that be sustainable is critical. And I think the history of the management team also is important in fundraising.
When a company puts something like, we collectively have 150 years of experience, is it meaningful, or is it the experience of the CEO and the founder and the team actually working together? It's not that somebody spent 20 years, another person 30 years, whatever. Is it important for them to have worked together before?
It makes it a whole lot easier to get funded. The tier one VCs like to see, having a proven team that's worked together in a previous venture or professional life together is very important, because then they don't have the risk of, sort of incompatible chemistries, for example. And it also makes it a lot easier for them to manage, because they can then spend less time with that particular portfolio and have time, so they leverage their time, which is their most valuable.
But you've been on both sides. You've been an entrepreneur and you had your own company, and you've been an investor for many years. Which role is harder?
Wow. Well, to be successful, they're both really hard. I don't know that I would pick one over the other. I think obviously success factors are different on both sides, but I've enjoyed my roles in both domains.
So you were born in Australia.
Yep.
I was born outside Silicon Valley too, yet here we are together. Is it important to be in Silicon Valley, or can a founder operate from another part of the world and still build a global company?
Well, it was more difficult in times past, but I think these days, as we've seen the globalization of commerce, that it's easier to build a successful company, although a lot of the successful companies are still able to operate successfully in their countries of origin, but have a footprint in both places, if not multiple places. And in terms of Australian startups, of course, Atlassian's a classic example of recent times of a major success story, I think, and has a footprint both in Australia and I think Austin as well as San Francisco. And then this new unicorn Canva, which has also a footprint in both places. So I think that's becoming more of a model for startups that have their genesis outside the US. Mm-hmm. So it's not necessary to be exclusively in Silicon Valley anymore. I think that was a lot more important 20, 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm. So if you were to leave our audience with some basic advice, well, people want to know, say you're walking somewhere in Silicon Valley and you bump into a major investor and he or she gives you 5 minutes of their time. So what is it that you need to condense in those 5 minutes to explain why they should invest in your company?
Well, I think the attributes I mentioned before, I think if you want to attract high value or high impact value add venture capital, the tier one players today are looking essentially for $1 billion exits. So it's very difficult to get funding if you're not, because that's just the way the business has evolved. And so it comes back to, I think, the three attributes. You can address a very large market. You have a proven ability to produce high quality intellectual property that has a competitive advantage, and that advantage is sustainable. And then the management team. And so I think they're the three attributes that get you in the door, get you your first meeting, and
hopefully be invited for the second meeting.
Yeah, hopefully.
And then leave with a check in your hand. Yeah. Well, that was very helpful. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Good to see you again.